question number 3, we are going to solve 2 over 3x to the second power minus x is equal to negative 1 over 6. Before we talk about anything else, first of all, I see I have an equation that has fractions. So let's talk about how can we get rid of the fraction first. And to do that, we are going to look at the lowest common multiple of the denominator. So the LCD, the lowest common denominator. So we are going to pay attention to the 3 and the 6, and then ask ourselves that what number can we put down right here so that 3 goes into that number and 6 also goes into that number. Well, you can say 12. 12 works because 3 goes into 12 4 times and 6 goes into 12 2 times. But 12 is not the least. The least number that will work is 6. Okay, because 3 goes into 6 twice and 6 also goes into 6 once. So decide what the LCD is, determine what the LCD is first, and then multiply everything by this number. So let me multiply 6 by 2 over 3, 6 times x, 6 times that. So here I have 6 times 2 over 3. Let me write the 6 as 6 over 1. Then I can reduce, I can cross reduce first. 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 6 twice. We have just to do 2 times 2, which is equal to 4. 4x squared. And the over 1 doesn't matter, right? And then minus 6 times x, which is just 6x. And that's equal to 6 times negative 1 over 6. Let me put the over 1 right here. And 6 goes into 6, they just cancel out once and once. So I have equal to a negative 1. Minus 1, negative 1, like this. Okay, so we actually have a quadratic equation because we have the x to the second power, that's the highest power, and then there are two different terms, x to the second power, but this is just an x, so we cannot combine like terms. Okay, and to solve anything that has the x to the second power or higher degrees, we should first make one side equal to 0, which I'm looking at this side. I want to make this side equal to 0. We can do that by adding 1 on both sides. So negative 1 plus 1 is 0, and let me just write this down. 4x squared, and then have minus 6x, and plus 1, and that's equal to 0. Okay? We cannot combine terms anymore, and this is what we have. And we have two choices. Whenever we are solving a quadratic equations, we should first try factoring. And by factoring, I mean that we're going to put into two parentheses, we're going to break down this into a product of two linear equations, right? Linear expressions. And then if we can do that, then the rest is easy. But in this case, no matter how we try, this is not factorable. Okay, this is not factorable. And I will leave that to you to try it. If this is the case, if we cannot factor it, we have a second choice, the quadratic formula. And you see that we already have in the standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Okay? If we have the equation in this form, then we can just use this formula and then get our answers. And most likely we'll end up with 2 answers. Okay? So a in this case is equal to 4, and b is equal to the number in front of the x, which is negative 6. Okay, the number in front of x, which is negative 6. This is my b, that's my 6, negative 6. And c, it's a number that has no x, which is equal to 1. We can only do this when we have the equation in the form of ax squared minus bx, plus bx plus c is equal to 0. We have to have the equation in this form in order for this to work. Okay. So then we're going to say x is equal to that, and I don't know why. I just like to write down the equations multiple times, the formula multiple times. I believe the more that we write down, the better that we can remember. So let me write this down. Minus 4ac all over 2a like that. Okay? This is my flashcard. You can get this in the description. But here's how you work this out. Okay, so this is the formula. Minus negative b. So I bring down the negative from the formula. But I see a b, so I'm going to open the parentheses. The b is the number -6, so I'm going to put this -6 into that parentheses. And then just continue where the plus minus and then the square root. I see the b inside. Let me open the parentheses and then let me put a -6 inside of that parentheses. Raise that to the second power, like that. Minus 4. I see the a. Open the parentheses. The a is also equal to 4. Okay, it's equal to 4. Then c. I see the c. I open the parentheses. c is equal to 1. Okay. Over 2 times a. So 2 from the formula, and I see the a. Open the parentheses. I put a 4 inside of the parentheses, just like that. So this is how you set up the quadratic formula with a, b, and c. So this is how you set it up. As I said, the more you write down the formula, the better that we can remember it. That's why I like to keep writing this down. Okay. Now we are just going to work this out. We are going to follow the order of operation and then work this out. I see I have the negative times -6. That's the result, positive 6. And then I have the plus or minus. I have the square root. But then let's look at what we have inside. Let's do that on the side. Inside of the absolute value, inside of the square root, not absolute value, inside of the square root, I have -6 square minus 4 times 4 times 1. Okay, work this out. This is -6 inside of the parentheses raised to the second power. That means -6 times -6, which is the result of positive 36. Minus 4 times 4 is 16, times 1 is 16. 36 minus 16 is 20. And we are going to put a 20 inside of that parenthesis, inside of this square root. Okay? Over 2 times 4, which is equal to 8. Okay? So this is how you work it out. However, we are not done yet. Why? Because square root of 20, we can simplify that square root. Okay? So let's look at square root of 20 here. Notice that 20 is the same as saying 4 times 5. Right? 4 times 5 is equal to 20. Even though I can also choose 2 times 10. 2 times 10 is equal to 20 as well. But then I want to choose a perfect square. And 4 is a perfect square. That's why I said 20 is equal to 4 times 5. Rather than putting down 2 times 10. Okay, so in this case, we can write this as, well, we are going to look at this as square root of 4. And I can break down the square root of 20 as square root of 4 times square root of 5. And square root of 4 is equal to 2. It's a perfect square. Right? 2 times 2 is equal to 4. So that's equal to 2, just a regular 2, no more square root. And then square root of 5. So then, here, come back here, we have 6 plus or minus. Square root of 20 becomes 2 square root of 5. 2 square root of 5. Everything, make sure that you put both of the numbers, okay? It's everything over 8, like that. Okay? So now, we can actually simplify this one more steps. And this is how I preferred to simplify. I see I have 2 things on the top. Okay, I see I have 2 things on the top. And we have just one number in the denominator. Then I can do this. I can put this down as 6 over 8 plus minus 2 square root of 5 over 8. So how can we do that? Because if the denominator is the same, you can think about this backwards. If the denominator is 8, then you can combine these two fractions into just one fraction. And I'm just doing the opposite. Okay? And if I do it like this, I can just look at this as a separate fractions. 6 over 4, which is equal to, I can reduce that. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into, 6 over 8, not 6 over 4. Well, reduce 2 goes into 3. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 8 4 times. So I get 4 over 3. And then right here on the second fraction, I have 2 over 8. I can only reduce the number that's both outside of the square root. So the 2 and then the 8. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. So I have plus or minus 1 times square root of 2, 1 times square root of 5, which is square root of 5 over 4. So 3 over 4 plus or minus square root of 5 over 4. That's the answer. Okay, this is the simplest that you can get. If you would like, let me show you another way that people can simplify this. Notice that we have 6 and 2, right? They are both outside of the square root, and I can factor out because 2 goes into 6 and 2 also goes into 2. I can factor out 2 as this. Bring down the 2 and then put a big parentheses. 6, I factor out 2 already, so I have a 3 left. Maintain the plus or minus 2 square root of 5, but the 2 is out here already, so I just have the square root of 5 over 8. Okay, so here we have 2 times a parentheses over 8. Then I can reduce the 2 right here. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. Then I can say the top, I have 3 plus or minus square root of 5 over the denominator is just 4. And if you take a look at this and that, they are the same answer. Okay, they are the same answer. And both works.